Hello to all my fans and friends, I'm the Pyjama Critic, and because the current situation means the Reaper is likely zipping up and down my road and I don't want to get caught in the crossfire, I'm stopping here in a slumber lounge talking about movies. Now, some of my younger viewers may still question the merit of sequels, and taking a look at the franchises that are in operation today, I can see why. But I should explain, there was a point when, following a successful movie, a sequel would be released a couple of years later, and it would feature an entirely new story. I know, hard to comprehend, but really, same characters, but they would do entirely different things, have a completely new adventure, and develop in new and unexplored ways. I can of course demonstrate that by inviting you all to take a far too close a look at Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Released in 1991, directed by Peter Hewitt and starring Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter and George Carlin again, also joined by William Sadler, the film tells the story of the further exploits of the two metal airheads as they are literally sent to hell and back and must overcome it all in order to give the most important performance of their lives and the history of the world. While time travel and future technology are still most important in this movie's plot, it actually takes a detour from sci-fi for the most part and goes in a more fantasy horror direction. A bold move considering everything else about this franchise has concerned the time-travelling phone booth, and something else that helps this stand out against more modern sci-fi and horror sequels. We open by immediately establishing our antagonist. This time it is not fate getting in the way, but the very deliberate intervention of Chuck Anomalous, played by Joss Ackland. He announces to his followers he has a plan to alter history. Yes, I discussed in the video of the first movie that should be impossible using the time travel dynamics of this universe. More on that later. Next we see a bit more of the future than we got last time, as we are shown Bill and Ted University, and it does seem to be a happy-go-lucky kind of place, although absurd fashion trends of the youth still persist. I have to ask, why all the focus on Bill and Ted? We learned at the end of the last movie this is a four-piece band. I know guitarists and vocalists do tend to dominate album covers, interviews and such, but this is the band that has brought about their utopia, and it was Wild Stallions that made the impact, not just those two members. The princesses are like their George and Ringo, and you know who I mean when I say that, right?
Greetings, my excellent pupils.
Enter George Carlin as Rufus. We are shown that time travel technology is very common and not just used for saving history. They also seem to go with that 20th century phone booth design as standard now, possibly because of the cultural impact of the events of the first movie.
Okay, remember this Friday, Ben Franklin and Aretha Franklin will be here. Saturday is the field trip to Babylonia.
This could go some way to explaining how the historical figures in the first movie were so blasé about being taken to the future. Seems these excursions have been a staple part of the lives of most famous people throughout history. The siege begins, we learn that Anomalous was once a mentor to Rufus.
You won't get away with it. Time will tell. Time has told. I will go back and change that.
Remember that exchange if you can. And Anomalous reveals his grand plan.
Now, what is your mission?
First, we totally kill Bill and Ted. Yeah. Then we take over their lives.
They set off, and Rufus catches a ride with the most 80s looking guitar he can find. Over to modern day California, where Wild Stallions are auditioning for a slot on a local band competition. Once again, Bill and Ted, played by Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves, backed by their girlfriends Elizabeth and Joanna, played by Annette Akse and Sarah Trigger. They have a lot more of a role in this movie, that's why I actually remember to name the actors this time. We learn this takes place 5 years after the last movie, so the boys are no longer in high school. The girls have spent their time practicing and can actually play, but Bill and Ted are still using their guitars as torture implements.
Guys, you keep telling me you're going to be the greatest band in the world, but you stink.
Yeah. We don't understand it either.
Miss Wardrobe, played by Pam Grier, tries to get this through to testicles, and Bill and Ted admit they don't really understand testicles. Honestly, that does look uncomfortable. Despite her better judgment, the judge gives them a shot. Onwards to Bill and Ted's apartment, where they are hosting this soiree for the girls who are 21 today. Guess they're twins, who knew?
Of course, we've always got a spot for you, Ted.
You remember my old friend, Colonel Oates, from the Alaskan Military School?
I can't believe Missy divorced your dad and married mine.
A little setting up for jokes later in the movie, and we get this touching scene that reminds us how much these characters have grown and that they really will always do everything together.
Will you marry us?
In fact, they're so comfortable as a pair, they seem to have had a partner swap since the last movie and handled it with ease. By the way, this has got to be a candidate for riskiest and worst thought out proposal ever. I mean, if this is giving you ideas and you're thinking of calling your best friends to suggest you propose to your partners together, imagine how this would play out if only one of those girls had said yes. That could be worse than them both being rejected. The robot Bill and Ted arrive, sans Rufus, try not to totally forget he's supposed to be there.
Looks like we lost him in the circuits of time, duder.
But then he is gone forever.
Also, try not to think about how video calls are supposed to work when these people are 700 years apart. First step of that plan is to make Bill and Ted believe they've been dumped and are in a desperate situation.
We think you're losers, and we never want to see you again.
No way.
We're going to the desert to be alone.
I totally fooled those other Russes.
Yeah, they're completely brilliant. Not.
Again with that sitting position. Now, I don't hold with women who complain about manspreading. Generally, men are just sitting in the position they feel comfortable with, and taller women like that sitting position too. But that is not a comfortable position by anybody's definition. These two look like they're inviting the camera crew to stand either side of them, grab a knee each and make a wish. Next, the robots show up pretending to be Bill and Ted's future selves, there to help sort things out with the girls. They aren't really convincing, but luckily these two are easily fooled.
Ted, if you're really me, how many fingers am I about to hold up? 3. Whoa!
Since they had claimed the girls were running away to the desert, they take them out to the Star Trek set they saw earlier, where all is revealed, and it's the end of the line for Bill and Ted. With our heroes dead, it's time for our final main cast member to make his spectacular entrance. It is of course Death, played by William Sadler. Imagine being tasked with making the role of the Grim Reaper memorable and funny. Well, Sadler manages it, hits a grand slam with his interpretation, and absolutely steals every scene he's in. Death tells them there is just one way back.
You may challenge me to a contest, but if you lose, you will remain here in the afterlife.
So if they lose, the fate that awaits them is the exact same thing they would face if they had never challenged him. Doesn't seem they've got anything to lose by giving it a go. Still, Bill and Ted don't fancy their chances, so they come up with a unique escape plan.
Dude, but your shoes are untied.
And make their way back home. Why did it take all night to drive to this desert if it's just 50 miles out of town? I get that's a long way to walk, but in the van it shouldn't have taken them more than 2 hours at most. Back at their apartment, the robots are causing even more damage.
This isn't funny!
Way to go, Joanna!
I don't understand what's come over you two. Let's go! And you can forget about us playing tonight.
Fine.
Leaving the real Ghost Bill and Ted desperate to let some living people know of their predicament. First, an ill-fated attempt at possessing Ted's father that succeeds only in showing us how idiotic it looks when middle-aged men try and do a bonehead teenager act. Next, Ted remembers Missy is holding a seance that day, so they try a different route.
I feel the spirits have arrived!
We get the same joke as the first movie, with the roles reversed.
Yeah! And we can totally sit down. Ted, it's your mom, dude.
And like all frauds pretending to be mediums for the glory, she panics when confronted with the real experience. Though it would appear she has learned some real tricks and is able to send them to hell. And we get one of the best jokes in the movie. Yes, it goes on for a little too long, but that's all part of what makes the joke work.
Not bad! Yeah! Can we do it again? Yeah!
After a brief encounter with a gigantic latex suit, they are down into the depths of hell. For a teen comedy, this does have a well thought out and interesting vision of the afterlife, how the underworld is personal to them. Naturally, the military school captain is a feature here.
Get down and give me infinity. You're stupid.
It works well, this manner of being sent down to hell, rather than just being told by Death they're going there because metal band, because really we've been given no reason to see these two as bad people, just a little knuckle-brained. This next hell room is evidence that they are good noble boys, as they split up for the only time in the franchise.
Theodore! You made your little brother cry!
How about a kiss?
Bill's individual hell is being humiliated as a child, and Ted's is the guilt he feels about something he did 10 years ago to upset his brother. They work out something important.
Dude! What? Hell sucks! Definitely! No!
And that they have to go for broke.
There's only one way out of here, man!
Now, there have been several versions of this myth throughout the history of religion, but it always comes down to the same thing. Everybody knows what it takes to get to the good result in the next life. Be good, kind, charitable, don't cause another living thing pain, try really hard not to kill anybody. But that's hard, so let's come up with something simple. In the end, as long as you're good at chess or quick-witted enough to survive a duel, you can escape whatever bad place your religion teaches awaits bad people. This fairly modern take on the idea that the newly dead can challenge death to any game of their choice is the easiest of all, because as these two demonstrate, it's really just a matter of choosing the right game. How can nobody have won before?
Hit. I hit. You have sunk my battleship.
Excellent!
Despite several refusals from Death to accept defeat, they are able to bait him repeatedly until he agrees to return them to life. They also need some help defeating the robots, and Death knows just a place to find somebody.
How's it going?
What is the meaning of life?
Every rose has its thorn, just like every night has its dawn.
Not sure why Death would need a disguise. Surely he could just tell St. Peter he's escorting these newly dead people to heaven. It's his job. While dead Bill and Ted are having a conversation with God, we're brought up to speed with evil Bill and Ted moving forward with their plans.
Proceed with the plan now.
Okay, dude. What do you say we trash their relationships?
Thought they already did that. The girls made it clear earlier that it was all over. Still, they have to meet him again somehow to get everybody in the same place for the final confrontation. Back in heaven, we're about to find out what all the future people were referring to when they said station.
The station?
Did you assume that the most brilliant scientist in the entire universe would be from Earth?
Yes, thank you. One of the earliest things I remember asking a priest was, would people from other planets all go to the same heaven? Because I am in no doubt there were intelligent races on other planets throughout the cosmos, whether or not we're ever going to meet them. As far as I'm aware, this is the only movie that has dared explore that idea too, and they do it so casually. The priest at my scout group didn't want to talk about it. I think the notion of any life away from Earth didn't fit into that limited worldview. So anyway, this is Station, the greatest scientists to have ever lived, played by Ed Gale and Arturo Gil. One of those you may recognise as Chucky from the Child's Play movies, whenever he had to move more fluidly than the puppet would manage. The other is somebody you may have seen multiple times but still wouldn't recognise, just someone who shows up whenever you get a group of elves or imps in TV shows.
Whoa.
Back to life, and the third act of this movie is so fast paced I have to introduce the spoiler section here. I'm going to talk about the ending of this movie. If you haven't seen this movie and don't want to know how it ends, then skip to this time code. And remember to try and watch this movie while you still can. You never know when the Reaper will come and find you. Speaking of which, is anybody else curious about what's happening with all newly dead people while Death mucks about in heaven and earth with his new friends? He hasn't yet told them to wait on a sec while he dashes off to harvest a few souls, but I don't see any zombies about yet. Still, on with the ending. The princesses are being comforted by Missy when Robot Bill and Ted arrive to kidnap them. Resurrected Bill and Ted stop off at the American answer to the B&Q warehouse, where Death really realises his true calling as a comedy sidekick.
See you real soon.
Oh, yeah?
The station twins gather everything they need and pull off their greatest trick, briefly giving the role over to Tom Allard. It's not really made clear what this is about, but popular headcanon is that they are most comfortable as two people, but are more technically apt when they're combined. The single station works its science with little help from Death, and all is set for the final confrontation.
You guys ready? You're up. Where are the girls?
Oh, they're hanging from the rafters. Yeah, we're gonna kill them at the finale.
Well, good luck, gentlemen.
This van must be super slow. They were en route when the Battle of the Bands was being introduced, and now it's nearly midnight, time for the Wild Stallions set, and Bill and Ted are just arriving. The real Bill and Ted make their entrance. In true metal fashion, the fans are happy with anything that promises an explosive battle on stage. The good robots make short work of the bad ones, but it doesn't end there, as Denomalus has seen the whole thing and is ready to enter the fray personally. Being as he is a huge fan of plot convenience, Denomalus uses some advanced future tech to hack the world's TV signals and see to it that everybody on Earth is watching these events unfold. An English caricature are sitting around their breakfast table, Russian and Chinese high streets are busy with afternoon shoppers, most of New York will miss it because it's 3 AM on the East Coast, but you can't hope to reach everybody. Bill and Ted aren't going to go down that easily. They remember how causal leaps work, so turn the odds in their favour.
After we get away from this guy, we use the booth. We time travel back to before the concert and set up the things we need to get him now. Excellent! Then we'll get a cage.
Denomulus is not so hot on time travel, and that's not how loops work. If he comes back to give himself a gun later, then he should have already had it, because that already happened. He's not a magician, he can't make things appear out of nowhere.
Only the winners are gonna be able to go back and set things up. Yeah, and that's gonna be us, dude. We set up the key, and we set up the gun.
This is the point behind the whole plot here. Denomulus thought he could change history, but doesn't understand the whole fixed time principle. In trying to alter things, he has inadvertently closed a loop himself. His interference has led to Bill and Ted having help from Station, putting on a great show to impress the judges, and ultimately giving that performance to a worldwide audience. Denomulus is taken down to the station by Ted's dad. Good luck booking somebody who won't be born for at least 600 years. One more big reveal. A little more retroactive exposition, and just one problem remains.
Dude, we still don't know how to play. Maybe we ought to get good, Ted. How?
That was a fast 16 months of intensive guitar training, dude.
Yeah. Except for that 2-week medieval honeymoon.
They literally take some time out for practice, and the band lineup is now complete. So Station doesn't have to go back to heaven. That may be because nobody is dying now. Death has given up weeping to become a bassist. The band dominate the stage, win in front of the world, and the rest of their achievements are revealed in a series of headlines. So that was Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and while it's still very much a tacky teen comedy, it is quite an improvement on the first movie. The two leads do twice the job of before, the girls get their moment to shine and make maximum use of it, and the only reason they all didn't get the recognition they deserved was because they were all eclipsed by William Sadler's death. There's certainly not the issue of filler scenes in this movie. In fact, at times there seems to be too much going on for such a short space of time. In some ways the movie could have done with being a bit longer, so the pacing didn't get so out of control. There is the usual amount of fridge logic, but that's to be expected when a movie uses time travel as its main plot device. Also, the questions that arise are less noticeable than the last movie, so it all seems to be going in the right direction. This movie gets 3 slippers, and the impending third instalment seems set to impress if the franchise continues in this direction. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, then please remember to whack the like button there, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to my channel for weekly new episodes. Plus, if you can think of anybody else at all who would like this, then please share this video on Facebook or Twitter or whatever you use. I've been the Pyjama Critic, and remember, whether you're a king or a street sweeper, you just have to practice and get really good at gin rummy, then you'll be ready for when you meet the Reaper.
Ted. What? Don't fear the Reaper.
I've heard that